The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I heard a number of years ago, there was a young man, his name was David, and David was not doing well in yeshiva, and he dropped out, and his parents didn't know what to do. He was sinking lower and lower. He hit the streets, no longer kept Shabbos, wasn't keeping mitzvahs the way he used to. The parents tried to love him as much as they could, but they didn't know what to do. And David was having an effect on the rest of the family. One night, father and mother are sitting down at the kitchen table. It's 2 a.m., waiting for this beloved son to come home. He's at risk. They're not sure how to approach it. And they're sitting there discussing what to do. They said, you know what? The father says, listen, we tried everything we can. We've given him everything, all the love that we can, but he's affecting the whole household, and perhaps it's time to tell him, give him some tough love. And tell him, listen, David, you're not going to shape up. We have a whole family here. You got to keep to the rules. If you don't keep to the rules, then you can't live here. His wife said, you can't do that. How can you do that? We can't. What if he chooses to leave? No, he's not going to choose to leave. I'm telling you. Well, we got to show him some tough love. And of course, this is not a shaila for someone to decide on their own. But this is what they were discussing. And finally, David comes home after a long night of having a good time with his friends. And he stomps in and he starts going up to his room, and his parents say, no, David, come here, we want to talk to you. He said, no, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. He says, no, come to the table, it's very important. The father tells David the way it is. He tells David what he thinks, and tells him, listen, you have a choice, David. Either you shape up, or you can't stay here. We have a whole family to worry about, and you're affecting them. And you've got to keep mitzvahs while you're in the house. You have to be some sort of role model. Otherwise what? Otherwise you can't stay here. He says, so you're kicking me out? He said, no, I'm not kicking you out. I'm telling you what I want from you. David says, fine. You don't want me? I'm out of here. He runs up the steps, packs his suitcase, and he says, I have friends. I'm out of here. Slams the door and he leaves. And mother and father sit there shedding tears. David moves in with his friends, Mark and Ray, some boys he met on the streets. And slowly but surely he loses everything he had. His connection to Yiddishkeit just about gone after a few weeks and months of this going on. Father and mother discuss it. One day, father says, you know what? I'm going to David. I want him to come back home. I want to talk to him. I've got to do something. What are you going to say to him? His wife asks. I don't know. But I'll go. He waits outside the apartment building where David was living at the time. David goes to work. As he's going out of the building, his father says, David! He's startled to see his father. He says, come, I want to talk to you for a few minutes. He says, Dad, I can't talk to you now. He says, no, come, I just a few minutes. Give me a couple minutes. And they go. He says, fine. And they go down to the coffee shop nearby. And they sit down. And David's father says, listen, son, I know you're hurting. And I know that I've said things and I didn't mean it. I'm really sorry. I really want you to come home. He says, Dad, I'm not coming home. He says, okay, so you won't come home now, but one thing I want from you. I'm going today to Muncie. I want you to come to me. I'm going to daven at a tzaddik's kever, a tzaddik's grave. Please come with me. Won't you at least do that? He says, Dad, I'm supposed to go with my buddies. We're going on a trip to AC. We're going to have a fun time. I can't. I told them I'm coming with them already. He says, no, do me a favor. And he holds his hand. David's holding back his tears. And he says, okay, Ta, I'll come with you. He calls up his friend and says, listen, I can't come with you guys. I got to go with my dad. He says, oh, you're going to miss a good time. You're going to miss it. He says, I'm sorry, I got to go with my father today. I'll meet back up with you guys later tonight. And David goes with his father and son. They travel to Monsey, and they stand at the Tzaddik's grave. The father with his black hat and his jacket, swaying back and forth over his Tehillim. And David, his leather jacket, his ripped jeans, his sweatshirt that he puts over his head to cover his head, hoodie. And he also begins to daven. And father and son are davening. And after about 10 minutes, he says, okay, now we could go. They go back home in silence. Father drops off his son. The son goes back into the apartment. And David's walking around. He says, okay, let me get something to eat. No one here tonight. Be a quiet night. Let me go to sleep. And he goes to sleep. And then he hears ringing, 5 a.m. Picks up the phone. He says, who is this? Who's calling? He says, hey, Dave, did you hear the news? He says, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, Mark and Ray. You didn't hear what happened? He says, no, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry to tell you this. It was a terrible accident. The car was hit by a truck. He says, what? He says, yeah. Levi's 9 a.m. He says, what? Levaya? He says, yeah, in Borough Park. Be there. The friend hangs up, and David starts screaming, oh no, Hashem! I was supposed to be there! I was supposed to be in that car! What's going on? What's going on, Hashem? I don't get it! And David doesn't know what to do. He's crying. And finally he comes. He decides to go to Borough Park. He goes to the Levaya. He stands there by the grave, and he sees their parents crying. And he looks at himself, and he's just in pieces and crying. He doesn't know what to say. He was supposed to be there too. And after that, Levaya, he decides he has to do something. He goes to his apartment, packs up his bags, and heads back home. And he goes to his house and he knocks on the door. And he knocks on the door, and his mother hears someone knocking. It's Erev Shabbos, Friday. She comes running to the door and says, who is it? And David said, it's me, Ma. It's me, it's David. She opens the door. He says, David. Says, Ma, I want to come back home. She gives him a big hug. Says, everyone come here. David's home. The father comes running. The kids come running. They all jump on him. David, we're so happy to see you. They give him kisses and hugs. And David spends his first Shabbos home in such a long time. David eventually goes to Eretz Yisrael. He learns in yeshiva. And after 2 years there, he comes back home. And he decides to build a family of his own. He gets married. And he's zoichet to have a son. And at that baby's bris, he's holding the baby. He's with his father. And he looks at his father and he looks up to Shemaim and says, Hashem, I hope that I'll be as good as a father to this baby as my father was to me. Perhaps that's a story.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org